we forming our think tank and advocacy organization, focused a lot of energies and research on housing in Atlantic City. Then we pivoted to the local media void here in southern New Jersey. Now, really excited to kind of start focusing some energies and research on Cumberland County, and really excited to have Melissa Helmbrecht. Did I get the? I think Helmbrecht. Did I get that right, Melissa? No, well,
Helmbrecht. I mean, I answer to
Helmbrecht.
anything.
Oh,
I
I
answer to
can't read my
anything.
own chicken scratch. Helmbrecht. But Melissa is the founder and CEO of HopeLoft. We look forward to talking with her. Funny story, so Melissa knows. We had our report earlier this year about local media and the great work they're doing at HopeLoft. So I really am grateful for that connection, and grateful to connect with you and talk a lot about Cumberland County and Salem County and the great work you're doing for the residents there. But I want to talk first about your background. I thought
Sure.
to myself as I was doing research today, not all of our guests and folks we partner with at our think tank have Wikipedia pages, so
Oh,
you do have one. So I'm excited about that. But you bring a unique perspective, because obviously when you were a younger person in your youth, you had your own struggles and challenges, and you've been very upfront and honest about those, which is very admirable. And then you took that and kind of used that to really propel your causes and beliefs, that you don't want other younger folks kind of going in that direction, which is really admirable. It takes a lot of guts, frankly, to be that open and honest about things. So I really want to commend you for that. But talk to us about just kind of your background. What kind of led you to a career down, civil service, public service, and really kind of that world that is really doing a lot of great things for folks in
sure.
southern New Jersey.
Yeah, well, I'm from here. I'm in Bridgeton, New Jersey right now, and this is home for me. I grew up in this community, and I, as a young person, was not thriving. I didn't succeed academically in school. I failed ninth and 10th grades. I did drop out of school. It took me 5 years to get through high school. Um, and the turning point for me in my life was two things. One, I had a complete stranger become a mentor to me. Just somebody who, out of the goodness of their heart, like so many people um, who do mentor or become volunteers for youth organizations. I had somebody come into my life and believe in me. And then I also was encouraged to volunteer with homeless youth. And I volunteered at the Orlando Union Rescue Mission for battered women and children. And the kids there were really excited when I showed up to volunteer, and really helped me feel like even I had a role to play and a contribution to make, even though I had straight F's on my report card and had never read a book. When I went to the shelter, um, uh, I had a role to play, and I made a difference when I was there. And I could see that just by showing up for those kids, that I was making a difference. And those kids really changed my life. This was before the Stuart B. McKinney Homeless Assistance Act, um, when if you didn't have a birth certificate or a permanent address, you could not enroll in school. So if you were homeless, you had a natural barrier to being enrolled in school. And so the kids I was hanging out with at the shelter weren't even able to go to school. And I realized that I had an opportunity that they didn't have. And that motivated me to deal with my own autism, because I am a person with autism, and really just figure it out, find a path forward. So I went back to school, I graduated, and I've never really turned back. I've spent, most of my career working with young people who are homeless, who are in foster care. Um, I really am passionate about, finding people that, because of their labels, how they're labeled, um, are counted out, and knowing that with the right support and opportunities, that not only can, they thrive, but they're going to become the community leaders that we're counting on, and that's what our work is really about.
Well, I'll tell you, it's hard not to hear that and be inspired. So you're doing your part in this holiday season to get folks pumped up for that calling. I think that's just a great way to phrase it. So talk to us about Cumberland County. Obviously you have a lot of roots there. It's your passion, especially we'll talk a little bit about HopeLoft and the great work that's being done in Bridgeton. But what? I'll just frame it this way. What has been the issue or the issues in Cumberland over the decades? Because similar to Atlantic City that has historically had problems, people thought that casino gaming was going to change things. And while casino gaming's been a net benefit to Atlantic City, the systematic challenges that the city faced pre-casino gaming still exist.
Yeah.
So that is an issue. But you look at Cumberland, clearly, historically, it has been the poorest county in the state of New Jersey. You look at the Kids Count Survey of children well-being, economic development, public transportation or the lack thereof, housing issues. It's kind of been that way for decades. And,
Yeah.
My frustration is, policymakers on both sides, every side, kind of just shrug their shoulders. Okay, well, that's, I don't want to say that's the way it is, but that's kind of people just shrug their shoulders at it. But, historically, what has been the issue over the decades with Cumberland County in terms of, children living below the poverty line, the lack of jobs and investment? It's not easy and there's not one cause of it, but what do you see has kind of been the systematic issues that have affected folks living there?
I don't know. I think there's obvious things like we've invested a whole lot in prisons and jails. We have 30% of the state's incarcerated population that are housed in correctional facilities in our county. And I think, what here at HopeLoft, we have been incubating community-based initiatives. So people, Bridgeton residents come to us with ideas for making positive change, and maybe they have an idea for an after-school program or a business, and we help them get those ideas off the ground. And since I've been back in Bridgeton over the past decade, I've just seen incredible passion and a tightly knit community and a willingness and a desire for people to work together. And I think that, the way that we're coming together as a community is now starting to attract investments and partnerships and things that are going to just, I think 10 years from now, you're going to look at Bridgeton, you're going to look at Cumberland County, and people are going to be looking at us as a model for how did we transform our community in a way that was completely community led. And I think that's what we're in the midst of. But I think from the outside, it's not as visible as it is to those of us who are here on the ground in the community. We see a community that's on the rise, and it's an exciting time to be here.
Apologize. I think that's one way to put it. Certainly, I think it is an exciting time to, be active in this space. I think a lot of potential, a lot of great work's being done, including yours at HopeLoft. I think that's a good segue. So talk to us about HopeLoft. I must confess, before our mutual friend and friends connected us, I was unfamiliar with HopeLoft,
Sure.
and I'm not that far away from Bridgeton. And for everybody listening and watching, I'm going to be visiting HopeLoft next week, so I really look forward to meeting Melissa in person and some of her team members and some folks in Cumberland. So I'm really excited about that, Melissa. But talk to us about HopeLoft.
Yeah.
Started in 2016. You recently, I think, 75,000 square feet of space now of real estate in the city of Bridgeton, which is really exciting. But what was talk to us about that metamorphosis of actually creating HopeLoft, and now it's a thriving nonprofit
Sure.
serving a lot of people in Bridgeton.
Yeah, so I started 12 years ago as the executive director of our court-appointed special advocates program, which is a nonprofit that recruits community volunteers to advocate for abused and neglected children in court. And I became the executive director of our CASA program, but it was struggling financially. And, we wrote some grants. We were able to turn it around. And then in the process of doing that work, CASA is working with the most vulnerable young people in our community, those that are involved with the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, with child abuse allegations or neglect allegations. And that really gave us a front row seat to all the different challenges that were faced in our community, right? The lack of jobs, issues in education, housing issues. I mean, all issues with addiction, just the real hardcore issues that were facing families that would put a child at risk of being involved in the division. And so, we had ideas for things that we saw needs, and we had ideas. And so we started to incubate those ideas, and some of the ideas became separate nonprofits. And, over the course of the last 10 years, we've incubated more than 40 different organizations, initiatives. We've bought businesses like Century Bakery and turned them into job training programs for local youth, with all profits going to charity. Follow South Jersey, a lot of different initiatives. And we thought it would be really cool to start to be co-located, to all work together. So we bought a building that's in the center of Bridgeton City, and all the different organizations work together in the building. And then we outgrew the building, so we bought another building and the building next to it. And now we have over 70,000 square feet of commercial space. And we are calling it a social impact corridor. If you come to downtown Bridgeton today, you're going to meet people who are dedicating themselves to community-led initiatives that are improving the quality of life for people in our community. And over time, we hope that social enterprise and this innovation becomes the driver for economic growth in our community.
Yeah, and I think it's an important way of looking at it, right? Because I think, and what do I know? I've never worked in a nonprofit world or social services world, but I think social services in and of itself, obviously important work, but without that economic development component of, hey, you've got to fix inequities in these communities where you need to get folks jobs, quality education, and it starts with a paycheck, right? And making sure folks have the opportunities. And, you look at, obviously not South Jersey, look at Trenton, where Trenton was a big manufacturing hub. Trenton makes the world takes, and that went away. And, it's been a decades-wide struggle to kind of get that community on its feet again. And I think you look at a community like Cumberland, I think it's the same way, right? That it's just, you need that kind of that oomph and not just, Band-Aid approaches, but systematic changes to it. It's funny you mentioned about the bakery, because I was told that we're going to have to go next week. I'm looking forward to that. But that's an interesting concept of actually using that to supplement the work of HopeLoft. So give a plug for Century Bakery, because I look forward to going there next week and having a donut or two or three.
You will enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, there's this idea where, there was businesses in our community that are beloved businesses. Century Bakery has been around for 40 years, and the owner wanted to sell it. And we approached him, 2 years before we acquired the bakery, and said, what if Century Bakery became a way to support the community for the long term, and every donut sold would go to pay for education, for after school programs, for recreation, for job training, for our most vulnerable kids. And the owner was all for it. He loved the idea. And it took us a while to figure out how to get that done, because the one thing about what we've done in Bridgeton is we didn't start out with any money, right? We had one nonprofit that was in the red. And everything that we've done, we've had to like build a business plan and go sell it to someone to get them to invest and fund it. And for that first social enterprise, we had no idea how to buy a business and turn it into a charity or a job training program. So it took us a couple years. Like some of the things that are happening here are ideas that are years and years old we've just been like chipping away at, trying to figure out how to make happen. But the bakery was a no-brainer, and I think people in Bridgeton are thrilled that they can still go get their fried donuts and that they didn't go out of business.
Well, I'll be there and tell them to make double next week, as I look forward
I
to
will.
bringing some home to the family.
Awesome.
So, want to pivot now. I'll give a shout out to my boy Kabir and Jay hooking us
Yay.
up. So, talk to us about Follow South Jersey. So, for
Sure.
everyone, by the way, folks, if you want to ask a question of Melissa or us, please drop it in the chat. We're live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. But talk to us about Follow South Jersey. As everyone knows, and you can go on our website, southjerseyforward.org. We released a comprehensive report looking at the local media void in southern New Jersey and ways to fill that. And look, as we know, Melissa, the local media void is bad. It's really bad in South Jersey, and I don't say that happily. It's not good. But Follow South Jersey is a very interesting concept, which again, another one I did not know, and shame on us, and hopefully we can help promote that. But talk to us about HopeLoft's efforts to actually help fill the local media void in southern New Jersey, because I think it's a very fascinating concept that maybe could get replicated in other communities in our region.
Yeah, so we are so excited about Follow South Jersey. SNJ Today was the local news here in the community, all over South Jersey. And a couple of years ago, they came to us and asked us if we wanted to acquire their digital assets. So we acquired snjtoday.com and their subscriber base, which was 70,000 people across different platforms. So we acquired SNJ Today, and then we rebranded as Follow Local, and launched the site followsouthjersey.com. And the model for our hyperlocal news effort is that we train citizen journalists. So we have young people that we serve. We really work hard to recruit youth who have lived experience of homelessness, have been impacted by community violence, people that are traditionally the most marginalized voices in the community. And we have a 15-week training program to train them to become journalists. And then we pay them, we hire them, we pay them as paid journalists, and assign them a beat. So we've had more than 25 journalists trained. At this point, we've produced more than 500 original hyperlocal stories. And in 2024, we're opening 2 media labs, one here in Bridgeton and one in Salem City. Where we have a studio right now where you can do podcasting and audio and video production, but the media labs will be right in the hearts of those cities, like right in downtown Bridgeton, the corner Thompson Plaza will be Follow South Jersey, and hopefully you'll walk by and see the morning show being produced in the floor-to-ceiling windows. But it's about local voices telling local stories. It's about meeting the critical information needs of the community, and it's really about how critical local journalism is to community revitalization. You cannot revitalize a community or solve any problem if there isn't the transparency and information sharing that journalism affords.
I look like we have a spot for a future South Jersey Ford Roundtable at Bridgeton. So maybe we'll
Yeah,
utilize
definitely.
that space ourselves and
Yep.
encourage other folks to do that.
And some
Um,
political debates, right?
there you go.
During
Well,
election season, and we could go
absolutely.
wild.
Well, we're nonpartisan and nonprofit South Jersey for it, but other folks watching, absolutely, maybe use it for Cumberland or Salem. I'm glad you talked about Salem City because I know you're trying to, and even though this is a Cumberland County centric talk we're having, obviously we want to talk about Salem. Obviously, Salem has similar challenges to, I'll call it Deep South, South Jersey, Atlantic, Cumberland, Salem. Obviously, the population is much smaller in
Yeah.
Salem, but I know even when we talked initially about a couple months ago, you hooked up with First Baptist Church there, and I know working with
Hmm.
other local groups there. So talk about some of the work you're doing, particularly in Salem City, because I know that
Yeah.
they have similar challenges to a Bridgeton, a Millville, a Vineland, etc.
Yeah. So my mom graduated from Bridgeton High School and my dad graduated from Salem High School. So, you know, kind of grew up with one foot in both communities, and my heart is in Salem and it's in Bridgeton. Walking down the street, like streets in Salem just brings me back to my childhood. But it has changed, and it has changed a lot. And there's not a lot of resources and opportunities in Salem City for the young people that we are passionate about serving and walking alongside. So we were able to get a handful of grants to start a community promise academy in Salem City. So young people in Salem can enroll in our academy. It's completely free. It's an after school academy. There are 3 tracks. There's a STEM track, so science, tech, engineering, math. There is a performing arts track that we are doing in partnership with Lavoie Arts and Education, and then a multimedia storytelling and broadcast journalism track. We also provide academic support, success coaching, a healthy meal, and we've been in Salem every day, um, doing outreach, community building, um, and it's starting to take off. We now have more than 20 kiddos enrolled in the Community Promise Academy in Salem City, and we expect to double that um, in the new year, and probably in the first month or two. We were able to hire, and this is really what it's all about. We were able to hire a young woman. Her name is Akina Nichols, who was the valedictorian of Salem High School, a Foreman Acton scholar, went to Swarthmore, graduated in 4 years, and just came back to Salem City. And she's now, coordinating that program. And she is dialed in to Salem City, and this is her passion. And now we're just she's leading us at this point. You know what I mean? Like, we've gone in, we have some resources, but now Akina is kind of driving, telling us, well, that's a really bad idea, or that doesn't really make any sense. And she's, like so much of what we do, we're trying to be useful and find people like her who are the real change makers, and just equip them, with the tools that they need to bring their ideas to life.
Well, I guess that begs the question in 2024, kind of what's next. Obviously, you could listen. You could expand all over South Jersey, but it takes a lot of money to do that. So, listeners, make sure you make a donation to HopeLoft this holiday season. But kind of what are some of the goals for 24 in terms of Bridgeton doubling down and Cumberland, Salem expansion further? What are kind of some of those 2 or 3 top lines that you're looking at? Kind of you and your team are looking at focusing on next year.
Yeah, so we really want to get these media labs up and running, and be increasing the production content and the number of people that are being trained and deployed as citizen journalists. That's a very high priority. We also are working with a lot of different organizations in our community, like Life Worth Living, United Advocacy Group, different churches, to really focus on how we can coordinate and doing like a joint recruitment campaign. Like in a perfect world, every young person in our community would be plugged into the program that best suits their needs, and they wouldn't have to be the ones that figure out what that is. There would be one common application that they all fill out, and then we, the adults on the back end, would be sorting it out for them and saying, okay, this kid needs a job, so they should go here, and this young person wants to prep for college, so this is the right fit for them. So kind of creating this like navigator position within organizations that really help young people navigate all the supports and opportunities and make it seamless for them. That's a big priority of ours. And then I also serve as the co-president of Give Something Back, which is a national organization that was started by a gentleman named Bob Carr. And Give Back is a program that provides mentoring and success coaching to kids who are homeless, kids who have been in foster care, who've experienced a lot of adversity. And in New Jersey, we've awarded 388 full room, board, and tuition scholarships to kids who meet that criteria, 202 in South Jersey and 117 in Cumberland County. So in the past 5 years, we've awarded 117 full room, board, and tuition scholarships to the most vulnerable kids in our community. And we are right now working on our strategic plan for Give Back and what we're going to be doing over the next 5 years. And we're focusing on not just four-year college, but trade certifications, community college, and career pathways. And in 2024, which is Give Back's 20th anniversary, we're going to be announcing what we're doing next. And that'll be a big focus of ours over the year.
Well, we'll have to make sure it's certainly our friends and colleagues in organized labor and the trades and apprenticeships getting hooked up with them. Obviously,
That'd be amazing.
There's a great need. Certainly, I think college is becoming so unaffordable. Some folks realize that college is just not for them, and for those folks learning a trade, a skill. I think in my neck of the woods, you see the growth of ACIT and a lot of high schoolers wanting to go there instead of a traditional high school. So certainly there's a lot of need for that, and especially in Cumberland County, which again is in need of jobs and investment and industry. Having that would be a great help for younger folks. So I think one of the things that you may see in Cumberland, I think we see in all of South Jersey, is younger folks maybe go to college and they don't come back, or they move. If you look at our population decreases or flatlining in some of these southern New Jersey counties, folks aren't staying here, and I think that's a big problem. And I think that's something I think Cumberland basically stayed flat in the last census or decreased a little bit. So it's been probably since the 90s since the population of Cumberland County went up. At least the numbers I looked at were correct. So using that to retain some of these younger folks, I think is imperative. How do you feel about obviously you're going to do some good work in 24, and you started earlier the conversation talking about the optimism you feel. What drives that optimism? Because I think sometimes you look at some of these numbers in the Cumberland or in Atlantic or in the Salem and say, it's been this way for so long, not reason to feel optimistic. But you certainly do. What kind of fuels that optimism?
Two things. The first is the young people in our community, and our organization is filled with young people, and many of them are young people who were completely counted out. They were counted out because they were removed from their homes because of abuse and neglect, and they're in the foster care system, or they've experienced homelessness, or they've been impacted by the justice system, dropped out of school, or not thriving in school, all different kinds of adversity and challenges. And when they walk through our doors, they dispose of those labels, and they take on new labels like entrepreneur and community leader and journalist and scholar is another label that our kids adopt when they walk through the door. And I've never seen so much optimism as the young people kind of walking around downtown Bridgeton and in and out of our programs. It's like they have incredible ideas. They have unbelievable integrity and a sense of inclusiveness. Like this generation that's coming up is the most inclusive, justice committed generation that I've ever seen, that's ever been, probably. And we're giving them the tools and we're seeing them develop these programs in these organizations. And that gives me a lot of optimism. The second thing is just the collaboration that's happening. Like everybody is at the table. Everybody is willing to work together. And it's taken years to get here. We've built trust across different organizations. But, almost every meeting I have, whether it's with Rowan College or the mayor's office or, Life Worth Living, anybody in the community, if you talk to them, they'll say, like, we're at a place where we're really ready to come together and plan our future in a shared way. And I think it's authentic, and I think it's time.
Well, we got I'll bust a friend's chops. We got a question, not in the chat, but he texted it to me, asking, what can other folks who have a need or a desire to start an organization similar to HopeLoft do? What advice would you have for them? Obviously, it's taken years to get where you're at, and obviously have the financial wherewithal and resources to have a great facility and whatnot. But what advice would you give to some folks who maybe can't start at that level yet, but want to start some sort of effort or nonprofit in Atlantic City or Camden City or West Cape May or what have you?
It's simple. Reach out to us, because our whole reason for being is to help other people get their ideas off the ground. So, it's not something you can do alone. And if we have an idea, the first thing we start to do is just to reach out to people and socialize the idea and, seek people who have experience. And, taking that first step creates the momentum.
Well, that brings a good mention of it. So how can folks support HopeLoft? Where can they follow you? Where can they visit you? Talk to us about where they can find you.
So obviously we're at HopeLoft.com. They can reach out to me at melissa@hopeloft.com. And we're on all the social media platforms. And then you could follow South Jersey. We're on all the social media platforms. And if, you're not interested in any of the think tanky kind of stuff, you can follow Century Bakery and just look at pictures of fried chocolate donuts, and you'll be supporting us that way.
Well, I would say to folks is get some donuts, bring it home with a cup of coffee, read our research on southjerseyforward.org, and then send a $20, $25 donation to HopeLoft, and then that'll be a great Thursday night that anybody can celebrate. So.
And the next time you and I do this, we'll do it with coffee, and we'll be taste testing.
Oh, I like that. Absolutely. I think that would be a fun time to do. I may be eating too many donuts and may have diabetes afterwards. I'll be eating all of them. But Melissa, it's really been great. I really appreciate you joining us. Melissa Helmbrecht. Finally got it right.
You got it.
It only took 40 minutes of HopeLoft. Really appreciate you jumping on, and really appreciate everybody watching. Again, hopeloft.com or .org?
.com.
HopeLoft.com. HopeLoft.com. Obviously, you can see our past research and roundtables in South Jersey Forward.org. We look forward to really delving more into Cumberland County and Salem County. I think that'll certainly be the basis of a future report for us to talk about those historic inequities. And I think, to Melissa's point, the younger folks and kind of that new energy and optimism, in Cumberland County is really exciting. And I think regardless of political party that, folks are rushing in to help, and you've built relationships on both sides, I think is really important, because, it's all about getting getting stuff done for the folks that live in Cumberland County. So I
Yeah.
appreciate
It's all
it.
about the kids
Amen to
at the end
that.
of the day.
Amen to that. So we really appreciate everybody jumping on, and we'll see you at the next one, everybody.
Thank
So
you so
take
much for
care.
having me. Take
Thanks,
care.